All right, hey quants. We're gonna go ahead and go take a look at the charts today. Before we do that, I just wanted to highlight that today is around a seasonal date for Gann, in Gann terms, and so the actual date was yesterday. I did not post a video yesterday, which would have been my typical schedule, but we had some family in town, and so I was busy doing hanging out with the family and that. And on the specific date, it's not all, I don't think it's always necessary that you be present exactly on that date. Although I was watching the charts, I think what's more important is to kind of know before and after what's going on so that you can basically pay attention to see what the resolution around those dates are going to potentially be. So I don't know if I mentioned this before, but you can download a cheat sheet for the Gann dates if you'd like to for 2026 on the site here. Again, the link for the Quant Alchemy site is in the description, and then if you just scroll down to the bottom, you'll see the timing tool there that you can link to. For most avid followers of these dates, you're probably not going to need a cheat sheet because there's only 8 of them throughout the year. And so there are other potential days or dates that could be considered Gann dates that you want to pay attention to throughout the year. And I'll probably update this with that information moving forward. But at a very high level, you basically have your like 8 major dates. And then you have some minor dates in there. And so most people who are following this stuff are just going to be already aware of that stuff. And so they're also, which is kind of highlighted down here, dates set here. And so these are just basically going to be around the solstice and equinox, and then midpoint dates for there. And then there's some other minor dates in there. And so let's go ahead and jump over to the briefs. And the reason I want to jump over to the briefs is because I did mention that I had tuned the AI to make these Gann lessons a little bit more useful, and because we are now currently around a minor season or a mid-season date, I thought it would be useful to take a look at the ladder example. If you were listening to any of the previous videos, you would recall that I mentioned that the ladder example was actually an error that occurred, the way the AI interpreted the language that I provided it. And so it literally gave a ladder execution example of applying Gann as opposed to what I had intended it to do. And I thought I'd just keep it around because to see how it evolves, because it seemed like it could be kind of an interesting use case as an example on a daily basis for how how you can apply Gann methodologies in your analysis and potentially in your trading. And so the reason I wanted to bring up today's is because we are on or around a mid-season date. Some of this latter example was fairly interesting. So identifying a market already trending into a seasonal date. And so we have been seeing that with stocks, equities, and crypto moving up recently, marking the last clean swing high and low. And then also watching within 24 to 48 hours, which is what that Gann tool checker does, is plus or minus 2 days. And so basically 1 or 2 days is 24 to 48 hours. And then basically taking a look to see what the resolution around those dates are going to be so that you have an idea, okay, are we seeing a turnaround at this date, or are we seeing continuation at this date? And so let's go ahead and jump onto the charts and see if we can utilize that information and apply it to the charts here. So for Bitcoin, as I mentioned, we've been trending up. I did mark off the equinox, which I took that off now, but I believe it was the 22nd, and we did drop below around that time, and so we basically saw a continuation of a downtrend. If you go farther back, really we're just ranging. So you could, on a larger scale, you could easily call that a no trend. And then after the 26th of March, we then started to move up. And so point about this is going back to that latter example I was just mentioning, we are now moving up into a mid-season date. I also just want to zoom out a little bit here and notice you can just kind of take a quick look and gauge that there is some likely resistance around this area, which is exactly lining up with when we hit the mid-season date, which was yesterday. If I was looking at this, I would see that it looks like the market sold off into the close because the close was lower than the high by a fair amount. And so we get a little bit of a pin bar there, or I don't know if that's technically a pin bar. I just said pin bar. I mean, maybe close to a shooting star. I mean, might want to see the body a little bit smaller, but a couple of interesting points about that is that we are now selling off it after the exact mid-season date, but I think we need a little bit more time for confirmation on that. However, I would also note that we did get the touch of the 200 EMA, and the 200 SMA was really close. It didn't quite touch that, but I mean, this is one of those ones I would probably say, close enough. And so if we start to sell off at this point, I think there is a good chance that we could see continuation lower down to those $50,000 targets that people were talking about. So it's only been one day and the day hasn't even closed, but something to definitely be wary of and to watch for. If you are in a, if you took a positional, like short-term or mid-term positional trade off of that, it's probably likely, depending on if you're talking about day trading or swing trading, I guess would dictate whether you want to call that mid-term or short-term trade. But in the context of a daily time frame, I would say that was a short-term trade opportunity. We will see if that occurs, then we'll see these the 821 slowly turn over, and that will be while this is likely bleeding down. And again, I mentioned before, one of the reasons that I like to use the Gann swing indicator is because it tends to be a little bit more reactive because it is just price. Then it tends to be a little bit more reactive than the 8 and 21 EMA cross that you might wait for if you're just using the master strategy. So I think, potential targets here are going to be this last swing high, and this is the 2-day swing high I'll mention, which would also coincide with basically breaking below the current daily low. So which could then set in the downtrend again. Well, it's not going to set in a downtrend right away because we'll have to actually break these swing high, swing lows all the way down. But there's potential to start seeing the first precursors of price moving down if that occurs. Something else I noticed on the charts, and let me just confirm because I was just glancing at this. So if we're looking at the MACD here, it's not super high, but in the context of how high it can get. However, there is the potential for bearish divergence here. So if we just pick one of these that are close to the high here, we can see price, we're at a topping part of the chart here, as well as a high on the MACD, and then we got a higher price up here, which currently we'll need a couple more of these histograms to come in before I would call it solid, considering this is only the first potential, if we close this way, potential red bar on the histogram. Then we have an opportunity to see one drive of bearish divergence here, and that is going to loosely follow, not loosely, but is also going to follow the potential for bearish divergence on the stochastic here. And so price didn't shoot up super hard, but considering the fact that if you zoom out, you can see there's definitely a potential for seeing what was previously support through part of the development of the past bull market, and then delving down into the current bear market. We're basically sitting at resistance right there. We're hitting the 200s. We're at a Gann mid-season date. Price is currently moving down, and now we have two drives of bearish divergence. So all of that does not look good in the sense of which way price is probably using probabilities likely to go. So I would say statistically, I would expect this to go lower. That doesn't mean that it's going to totally tank out and go all the way down to 50,000. I would wait to see if we're going to see some of these swing highs broke, and the trend obviously will change and all that before it goes all the way down. But at that point, we're basically, I think we got the easy short-term move. I was kind of mentioning that quite a while back once these turned up, that I was expecting if we got through here, we'd get a free ride up to the 200s. I mean, there was a little hiccup there, but I mean, it doesn't look like much in the context of just the development of the market, right? So, so that is looking at Bitcoin in the context of the mid-season date here, and also all the other things that are aligning here that don't necessarily look good in terms of seeing price turn around. that doesn't mean it's going to, right? I did see some people on X posting about not selling in May and going away. I mean, we traditionally see the sell in May idea. Some people, when they test that, it's not going to test out right. So I think it just depends on how you're applying your rules and testing that. So at this point, I would just be cautious and wait for more confirmation. If you didn't get into position, I don't think right now is the exact time to buy into a position. I would personally want to wait and see some more confirmation that we're going to get some uptrend before we get through all this resistance that's setting right here. But if we do break through that resistance, I think that is a very positive sign for more continuation. So let's go ahead and I'm not going to go through and look at all the other charts. I think that was the main thing that I wanted to cover, and I just really wanted to touch on the context of looking at the stuff with the Gann mid-season date in play currently. But just looking on the right side of the chart here, I'm just looking at these percentages, and I just noticed something when I was briefly looking at this is crypto in general, even if you're looking at the stock related versions of crypto, looks like it's basically trending down. If you're looking at the commodities, let's see, I believe most of the commodities look flat. So I touched on, this is a gold example. This is a gold right here. Looks like it's kind of selling off here into the closure. So got a little bit of a green candle there. But again, this all just looks like it's just ranging, right? If I look at silver, kind of the same idea. Still looks like it's ranging. Silver did get a push up today. So maybe not all the commodities are looking that way. I mentioned in the past, nobody talking about food. Because everyone I was following was talking about everybody moving over to food and how nobody was seeing that, which just to me cracks me up when I hear everybody saying, "Oh, nobody's seeing this," and that's literally what everyone's saying. So, but that's how momentum starts. So, I haven't looked at any of the food commodities myself, but or the agricultural stuff. So I'm not going to speak any farther on that just yet. But I just wanted to take a look. I did notice some of the stocks mostly look flat. Looks like Microsoft and Nvidia were moving up quite a bit there. Everything else stock-wise looked kind of flat. Let's take a quick look at Nvidia. Still potential for setting in a lower high here. I'm not going to call that that's exactly what's going to happen. So it 100% could just bust through and keep going here, and there's room in the oscillators for it to do that. Similar with Microsoft. So Meta was looking flat. Same opportunity to, with the oscillators to potentially move up. Google was kind of flying there for a while. So oscillators are super high for that. But yeah, it still looks like it's holding on. Definitely a ton of room in the oscillators to move down at this point. But yeah, and that hasn't been pulled back yet. So we'll have to see how that one continues to play out. So I think I covered the main piece that I wanted to mention about the Gann seasonal dates, and that's where I'm going to leave it today. So I will be coming out with, I think I mentioned this. I actually had to do a double take on this video, so I think I mentioned this earlier. If I didn't, I will be doing a video probably tomorrow about how I've been using AI to build code and stuff. So this will be more related to the builder videos that I do. And kind of covering a little bit of the evolution of the tools, not in a ton of detail, just a cursory overview of kind of how the tools have evolved and how I'm using tools today, and which ones in particular I've been interested in, and how I leverage those, and how I see things from the AI standpoint from a development perspective. And so that might be an interesting one if that's the stuff that you're into. Otherwise, you can stick around for my super popular market videos, and we will catch you on the next one. Peace, quants.